a classic HSM that gets firmware updated to pretend to be quantum ready, it's almost like I want to get a zebra. I have a white horse. Can I just paint black stripes and get the zebra?
Welcome to Shielded, the last line of cyber defense by PQ Shield, the podcast where we are moving the conversation around post-quantum cryptography from the why to the how. I'm Joe Lintzen, your host, and I'm here to guide you through the challenges, innovations, and solutions that will help your organization stay secure in the quantum era. Let's future-proof your defenses together. Welcome to Shielded, the last line of cyber defense, the podcast where we explore the future of cybersecurity and post-quantum cryptography. I'm your host, Joe Lintzen, and today we're joined by Bruno Couillard, the CEO and co-founder of Crypto4a. With more than 35 years of experience in cybersecurity and key management, Bruno is a true expert in cryptography, key management, and quantum-safe technologies. His company, Crypto4a, is leading the charge in innovating the hardware security module space with quantum-safe hardware solutions to protect digital systems in the face of the looming quantum threat. Bruno is here to share his invaluable insights on the urgent need for businesses to transition to quantum-safe solutions, the challenges of migrating to PQC, and how companies can ensure they are on the right path to securing their digital future. Bruno, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Joe, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's an honor to be here. Very happy to be part of your community and your audience. And I hope this does not disappoint. I hope it's a one of many potential such events. But thank you very much for the offer and generosity. So looking forward to this chat here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, speaking of 35 years, that's quite a long time. It shows in the little bit of a graying, right?
There's a bit of a gray hair.
So maybe you can take us a bit through, your career journey and how does one get involved in cybersecurity and then in cryptography, key management, and what inspires you to focus on, the obscurity of hardware-based, solutions and implementations?
That is an awesome question. And today I would almost point to 37 as the number of years I've been operating in this space. And
well, you can call it almost 4 decades.
Yeah, pretty close. It really starts with I decided way early in my life that perhaps doing a military career was the right choice, and I felt like becoming a pilot. So I joined the Army and selected to be a pilot. But I also loved schooling and I wanted to be an engineer. So I went to military college, became an engineer, but failed at the becoming a pilot part. So as my transition was going, I ended up reselecting to become what was known or is still known as a telecommunications officer. And, finished my engineering degree, graduated, completed my training as a telecom officer in 1988, and was sent to a project office in Ottawa, Canada, where I still live today. And the job they had given me was, you're the kid that comes in, you're fresh out of school, and we have this network we're building, and that requires some technology called cryptography. And, the guys that were there before me, it was not something they really wanted to get to break their brains figuring out. So they gave it to the young kid. And I ended up being absolutely fell in love with the cool aspect of this math and operational challenges and how you could encrypt data and so on and so forth. So pretty much fell in love. And I spent 5 years on that project, during which I got to touch the glimpse and have an understanding in 1988. So think of it from in parallel, the internet is moving forward. 89, you have the invention of HTTP. There are people talking about this internet thing, maybe something one day, but not exactly sure. 1992, I left the uniform because I was too happy with the technology path and I wanted to keep doing this. So decided to go work for the Canadian government in is known as a equivalent to NSA. So I did some cryptography evaluation, learn more about cryptography even more. And I really, really liked it. But in 1994, I decided, all right, I've now spent quite a bit of time as a military slash government employee. I'd love to build something. I really would love to build some technology. And there was a company in Ottawa called Entrust. They had just emerged and they were doing something called a PKI. It was based on some new concepts of public-private cryptography, issuing certificate, and they were looking for boxes that could secure cryptographic things called private keys. And it was a box, it was hardware, and someone was needed to help architect that thing. And it so happened that I was a lucky guy that found a place to work on that project at a company called Chrysalis ITS. So I got to be a co-founder of the company. And one day someone, given the concept of Chrysalis, which is apparently has to do with the butterfly, and they felt that the name was needed with the product required name. Let's call it the Luna as a butterfly. So let's call that the Luna HSM. So the Luna HSM was the name we applied to this box, which became the Luna HSM that's still in vogue today. So I spent 10 years at Chrysalis. Eventually, I left, became a consultant. And many years after having become a consultant, I was desperately looking for some fun work to do. I love building products. I love building cryptography. And I decided to go and harass some of my really good buddies I'd work with. And we formed a new company called Cryptography, where today we're building a next generation hardware security module with quantum in and out and all on the site. So that's very short, condensed version on how I ended up being where I'm at today.
That's quite fascinating to look back on a career path and then also realize that maybe it started with like one or two coincidences that then spurred into now looking back what you can say is the path that you took and somewhat going full circle with the founding Cryptography and sort of leading that charge on HSM technology once more.
And it's funny in a funny way. The first design, the Luna design, was deeply inspired by my previous career. And in the days of if you're if you're being trained in a telecommunications sort of role inside a military force, if you're the guy or the girl that has to deal with cryptography, you are empowered with almost godlike powers. You have to consider yourself one of the chosen one. And these boxes are not given to just about anyone. They're given to the almost the priests of these organizations. So I came out of that environment, built the company on the notion that HSMs were very critical, very important, and they needed to be isolated from the rest of the IT systems. So if you look at how we have evolved, and let's face it, back in 1994, really no one knew what the internet would become. Like
Right.
this
There were
machine.
some ideas and visions and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, but no one would have ever been able to guess. Like I tell people often that in 1995, if you look at the birth of, I call it the big bang of the internet with SSL under the Netscape, under the Netscape browser, the Padlock. This is the big bang of the digital economy. This is when it explodes from there. SSL is there. You have PKI and you have HSM, the triad that allows you to trust, guarantee, do in the zoo, and be able to exchange and do a digital transaction. This is a birth of the digital economy. And today, it's a third of the global economy. No one had any ideas of what this would become. And these machines were built not for scale, but for high, almost be fully isolated. So HSMs that you know today are often hard to manage, hard to maintain, conceived to be behind closed doors, and only run by priest-like IT staff. It really is becoming a challenge for the future because we're scaling faster than we can bring these machines to
Right.
fruition. So
Yeah,
this
that old deployment model certainly has
yeah,
its challenges when when we're talking about everything being cloud based and everything
yeah,
being a service, right?
yeah,
Of course, the other challenge that we want to address as well, and I could see it and behind you. It even says it quantum safe, right? So
yeah.
I think I recently was in a conversation where someone was talking about the difference between being quantum ready and actually being quantum safe or quantum secure. So even there might only be a slight difference, but can you
Mm.
maybe dissect that statement a little bit and why it's crucial, especially in the context of hardware security modules, to think along those lines as organizations get ready to migrate and choose the cryptographic solution that they want to base basically their keys to the
Right.
kingdom on.
And I have actually recently saw a post by someone. He compared um, in the U.S. the Biden administration came out with a sort of an executive order, and they used language such as PQC-ready and PQC-providing, and there are two very different things. And I think it's interesting as a terminology. And I'm not trying to invent new terms. I'm trying to use what they have. And the funny thing was, when I read it, I thought, wow, this is the core issue here. If you think of an HSM, and when you design these machines, you design the HSM to provision you as an external application with cryptographic capabilities. You will generate the keys for the application. The application will be able to make use of the keys and so on and so forth. So an HSM is a provider of cryptography, but the HSM has to use internally its own cryptographic capabilities because think of it as a safety deposit box for some of the most sensitive keys. The HSM has got to use cryptography to secure those sensitive keys. So when you look at an HSM today and you think of a black box, if it's got firmware updates that comes to the HSM below the surface, the HSM needs to verify the origin of the software. So there's a cryptographic root of trust there. If the HSM talks to another sibling of its own family to transfer keys, there is a HSM to HSM communication. If you need an HSM to attest of the capabilities and origins of other keys, the HSM needs to sign something with its own internal keys. So there's a series of processes taking place inside below the surface of the HSM that are all based on cryptographic capabilities. So a PQC-ready HSM is an HSM that uses internally fully post-quantum ready cryptography. In our case, we use LMS for code signing. We use MLDSA for some attestation, as well as SLHDSA. We use MLDSA as well as MLChem, as well as classic Metalese when it goes across between HSMs. So internally, below the surface, we are fully designed to be quantum ready or PQC ready. In addition, when you come knocking at the door, if you're the application coming in, we're a fully PQC providing. So we're able to provide you the full spectrum of all the PQC algorithm. Those two things are characteristics that probably only HSMs get to be having to be designed for or designed to address. You not only need to provide PQC, you also need to be PQC ready yourself. And I think this is a very interesting nuance in the language that we have today. There's quite a lot of, if you wish, variants of usage, as you probably have seen in your own line of work, and people will sometimes mix a lot of these terminology, and it's not exactly clear. But being PQC ready is a very, very different business than providing PQC.
Right. So if I'm an organization that is looking to upgrade my own infrastructure and is looking to purchase from outside vendors through my usual digital supply chain, what are the questions I should be asking to those providers? Like, how can I determine if the very fact that you just laid out, that there are those two aspects of it, the internal use of PQC ready, and then providing the functionality to external calling applications?
Probably the best question to ask is, ask the vendors, once NIST or other jurisdictions deprecate classic cryptography, say RSA is no longer available, or ECDSA or ECDH, do I have to take my HSM and put it in the garbage? Can I salvage that machine? Can this machine somehow become quantum safe? And the next question is, if it's classic today, can I transform it into a PQC ready machine?
Right. By means of a field upgrade,
upgrade.
Yeah.
And when you really look deep at that sort of question, it's almost like, I want to get a zebra. I have a white horse. Can I just paint black stripes and get the zebra? It looks like a zebra. It still is a horse. A classic HSM that gets firmware updated to pretend to be quantum ready, I believe it's pretend is the term here, or the terminology. So our opinion for absolute sure is, you cannot take a classic machine and have a magic wand and turn that machine into post-quantum capable. Because if I go and I were to deliver you nuclear code in a paper envelope and tell you that, don't worry, it's the nuclear code. But if the envelope itself, HSM itself, is paper, it's plastic, then you have to ask yourself, well, have I really gotten myself a proper base to start the foundation of my architecture? Because let's face it, there are plenty of challenges we are about to face. Any practitioners, any folks out there attempting to migrate their current stack of security over to being quantum ready, I think the last thing they want to hear is that one day you've started to build, you'll have to replace your HSMs because they were not post-quantum ready to start with. I think that's not something anyone wants to deal with. There's enough challenges, they don't want to deal with that. So I think this is a really critical aspect of this transition. The HSM is the foundation block.
Right. No, it is. It is certainly, like you said before, right? It is such a fundamental building block to, a lot of the security that we're so used to using, with PKI sort of being the main use case, not the only use case, but certainly the main use case, protecting all those connections that we have in all the authentication that we just take for granted because it's so transparent, right? I think what you lay out, of course, if I have, I'm starting from scratch and I have a green field and I'm building a new system and I want it to be, quantum safe from the get-go, then of course I'm in an entirely different situation versus, hey, I have an install base of, a larger bank, maybe 500 to 1,000 of those devices out in the field. And now what do I do? Right. So,
exactly.
So that challenge certainly is there. Is there anything in particular that your offering comprises where you say, well, we can help in this case where you have an install base, but somehow you want to build something that is bottom up, quantum safe.
And we've already been doing quite a lot of that. And I'll just do one quick bracket of what you've brought up a second ago. A few months ago, during his keynote delivery at ICMC in Toronto, Matt Campagna from Amazon came up and he suggested that in their internal use of cryptography and the many, many dependencies on classic crypto, one of the things that they have come to understand is a central key element, no pun intended, is their PKI. Everything else depends almost entirely on getting certificates from the PKI, whether private or public. And so one of the things that he suggested was, look, the world is really messy. There's a whole lot of different cryptography usage out there, thousands of use cases. But if you have anywhere in your organization a PKI, guess what? That thing is an absolute first step. You can make that without any regrets. It's a no regret migration tout de suite. Build it on top of quantum ready HSMs and go forward with the notion that if you start with that step will not have to be redone and you can continue building the rest of your machinery. So we've already been working with many, many users that are having to deal with this transition sooner. And they're actually starting to migrate existing cryptographic material that they have in older or more classic HSMs into our machine. So we can think of it as bilingual. We can absorb classic cryptography as well as PQC. We can do both. We can bind these two capabilities to offer either the hybrid concept, the composite keys. So the idea of your HSM, even if it's a PQC ready with full PQC offering, we still offer classic cryptography as well. So you can take your classic, bring it inside this machine. The foundation is now quantum ready from the base, and you can start deciding when you create your MLDSA or your SLHDSA or your hash-based signatures if you want to use hash-based signatures for some use cases. So that transition is doable, and you do not have to worry about having to buy more hardware. It's in the same footprint, and that's a possibility today.
So it's more of a phasing out approach, but starting from this core central piece of your cryptographic backbone, which is the PKI, typically in any type
Exactly.
of public private
Yeah,
key based systems.
it seems like, and then that's what we also felt as a central element. Your PKI was very core, but I think Matt confirmed, at least from an Amazon point of view, and I think they probably have interesting set of use cases. So coming from him was a nice confirmation.
Yeah,
The idea.
Well, and it somewhat ties back to more or less two things that we were talking about earlier, right? One, adoption of the cloud has really changed the way that HSMs get consumed, right?
Yes.
As you can see by not only AWS but all the other big hyperscalers, the
Yes.
choices that they made on the HSM side of things, right? And so,
Yep.
so that's the one point: cloudification or migration to cloud-based, service-based offerings. And then the other one that you brought up earlier, certainly is the question about form factors and how the how the HSM is able to deliver the key feature that it provides, right? So if you look at the deployment methods, and you said it earlier, they haven't really changed much in the past 3-4 decades. So do you see any innovation happening in the HSM space to cater to those challenges, those moving requirements?
We have certainly started on that path. Um, we're of the opinion that HSM need to be properly aligned with how cloud compute has evolved. And if you look at your cloud compute back in late 90s, early 2000, you could have seen a pile of tower data servers all stacked up in bizarre shapes. And then eventually we migrated to 19-inch rack kind of servers to eventually having these really nice servers that are modular architecture. You have your compute, you have your general compute, your graphical capability, your AI compute nowadays, storage. Everything has evolved from a compute storage point of view to be highly modifiable, scalable, modular, except for HSM. They're still very much in the days of and lots of them, if not almost all of them, ultimately require some human being at some point to having to stick a card or a USB token and a punch on a keyboard in the front. Very awkward sometimes when you're at the bottom of the stack or top of the stack. And they did not evolve to be nice and play with the rest of the kids in the cloud. They're kind of their own kind of closed garden of an era which has not evolved with the rest of the cloud compute. We think this has to change to help operators, to help this expansion of security is becoming, security is everywhere. Cryptography is everywhere. Um, we've only started to build now the operational technology in onboarding of the internet. So for the past 30 years, we've been dealing with IT systems. Most of the OT was offline, like air gap. Now we're bringing all of this in addition to IT, we've got operational technology adding up to this need to scale, to be flexible, to expand. And humans don't have time to learn nice keypad. And I mean, this is an era when the priests were valid. Nowadays, you need to be able to train your team, have one pane of glass. You can control your setup, whether it's in here physically or remote. You have to have the ability to do this without deploying human resources, because we don't have enough people, and we need to be able to do this at scale. And the cloud is scaling up faster than the HSM can keep up. And to us, it's a really important way of looking at the future. So the future is a nice place to be.
Yeah, Yeah, and that brings me to my last set of questions, really. And future is exactly the point. Like, we've been talking a little bit about the past and how we came
Yeah,
to the place that we are now. So if you look ahead, how do you envision PQC, shaping hardware security modules and that whole evolving landscape over the next maybe 5 to 10 years, sort of looking at the timelines that are being communicated, 2030,
yeah.
2035, um, certifications, regulations, new technology. What's your vision? Where do you see all of this going?
It's an absolute, the world of tomorrow, first of all, has to be crypto agile, in that we've lived the golden era of cryptography for the past 30 years. Funny enough, when the internet was born, in like the digital age, I'll call it, the one that we care about, in the late 90s, there were raging debates about how do you allow cryptography to exist outside of certain jurisdictions. There were, crypto with the whole policies. And it was very much in the era to do not have agility. If anything, build it so that no one can ever change it, was the mantra back then. So we built 30 years worth of capabilities built on construct that are, the idea of cryptography is you do not change your cryptography. It is nowhere near agile. It's the opposite of agile. But now we're all facing this challenge going forward, and we have to replace and rebuild and redeploy cryptography in a world that's going to constantly likely change for possibly ever. Um, I hear sometimes people that think as soon as we've migrated to MLDSA, we're done. I also hear many people that go, maybe not. Maybe it's too big. Maybe we'll go Falcon. Maybe we want to have another algorithm that we want to go for. So absolutely crypto agility. I don't think anyone today would debate that
Right.
construct going forward.
Well, and it proves the point that you made earlier, right? When you laid out that even within Crypto 4A solution, you're using, MLDSA, MLChem, SLHDSA, and also the stateful algorithms,
Yeah.
because you have those different use cases that you cater to, where,
Yep.
15 years ago it would have been, well, no, that's RSA and that's it.
That's it.
So
And
yeah,
and
very
and
very
let's
much proof is in the pudding. Yeah.
and let's face it. I mean, cryptography had its golden era, or the golden age of cryptography was probably from 95 to 2000, roughly, just where we were trying to invent stuff, really cool, creative things. But once we landed on a pretty stable fabric, the number of invention or creation were kind of slow going, because we had this phenomenally good algorithm called RSA that you could use for signature or key transport. You could use it for so many use cases. Why scratch your brain? What that meant is a lot of younger generation of bright people decided, cryptography is not that cool. It's kind of fixed. It's been fixed. Why not go to the cloud, or play with AI, or hey, there's quantum coming up? And that was what attracted the younger generations. Now cryptography is right in the middle of, oh my God, we need to learn we need to reverse engineer every single protocol we've ever invented, every assumptions we've ever made. We used RSA here. What's the best replacement? Maybe it's LMS. It depends, right? And every single decision point, we have to go back and try and figure, oh, we did it for this reason. Now we have to apply a whole new slew of requirements, and we may land with ML-CAM as the final replacement, or LMS, or SLHD. That transition is so complicated. Like, there's nothing that goes 1-to-1. It's 1-to-N in just about every single use cases. So it's a challenge. It will continue to be very appropriate, I think, for younger generations that want.
So you'd give a career recommendation to young
Yes.
people to enter the field now, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think they'll have a blast. They'll always be at the forefront, because we've now, all of us, the world at large, nowadays realizes the importance of understanding your cryptography. So this notion of crypto agility, you being aware of what you're using, when and where, and how to ensure it's well maintained and it's catered for, and on and on and on, means that vast majority of organization will have to build these cryptographic center of excellence, this cadre of people that their brains are constantly looking at what's going on, because this is the fabric that ultimately allows digital economy to survive. And cybersecurity doesn't exist if you have no cryptography, as far as I'm concerned.
It's very much front and center. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, I think that's a fantastic wake up call, and hopefully we're going to have some younger folks in the beginning of their career listening to this as well. Now, if our listeners want to follow some of your work, where's a good place to find you? I mean, the typical LinkedIn, or is there anywhere else that you could point out?
I am personally quite active on LinkedIn. I try to keep a certain presence, but being a CEO of a young company is also a busy time. Our website, www.cryptofory.com, is probably another place to keep up or learn about Cryptophory. But I like to also be involved with the community. Your offer to invite me is, I always like these these kinds of offer. If I have if you and I today in this conversation have influenced someone out there in the world to conceive of a career, or to possibly influence someone else, this is to me a positive outcome of these conversations. So I always like to go out there as much as I can, and share my enthusiasm for the future, and my I'm excited. It'll be fun. It'll be complicated, but fun.
That's the most important thing. Well, thank you so much, Bruno, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next conversation on a similar topic, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Same here, Joe. Thank you for inviting me again. Thanks again, and take care. Cheers.
The quantum era is already here. With the right tools, the right knowledge, and the right mindset, together we can face it head on. To find out more about PQ Shield and how our cutting-edge solutions can help you secure your data against the quantum threat, visit pqshield.com. Make sure to search for Shielded, the last line of cyber defense, in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at PQ Shield, thanks for listening.